Sure, Adam. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. I'm Jacob Concannon. I'm based in San Francisco, California, in the United States. I'm a dad to two awesome kids, a husband to an awesome wife. But for a living, I'm an insurance broker for large contractors and owner developers around North America. Been working with Gallagher since I was a college summer intern in 2005. Really waved the Gallagher flag, if you will. And today my role is being the lead exec for several Gallagher clients, contractor clients, managing that portfolio of business for Gallagher while also working on growing our client base. Gallagher is an international insurance brokerage firm, about 40,000 people globally these days. And we have a niche strategy though, which means we focus on specific market verticals. So there's folks in our company that focus on tech companies or the healthcare industry, construction, real estate, and we have professionals dedicated to those industries. And I'm part of our construction group, so I get involved in all areas of risk management and insurance for clients I work with. Project sizes range from small tenant improvement jobs to multi-billion-dollar stadiums, airports, mixed-use developments. Our contractor clients range in size and scope from 30 million a year and annual revenues to 5 billion in US dollars, and coast to coast, across borders, commercial spaces, multifamily data centers, healthcare facilities, casinos. We kind of see it all now. Modular and mass timber, which we're here talking about today, is part of the work I see. So every day is dynamic. It brings with it either exciting new projects our clients are doing, or sometimes devastating news and accidents, being in the insurance world and the things that can happen out on a construction site. So you never know what you're going to have coming at you. And it's a lot of fun. I get to work with amazing people and entrepreneurs, from our contractor and owner developer clients to within Gallagher. It's a lot of fun.
Yeah, definitely sounds like it. And for the amateurs listening right now, what are the key principles in insuring buildings in the construction industry?
I should premise this response with the caveat that I've never been an insurance underwriter. I'm not an actuary. I'm not the person or folks that come up with the rating and the models that create the rates that drive insurance premiums and costs. And especially when in property insurance. I'm just a broker. So I help represent companies and help them with the design of their insurance programs, helps them decide which insurance companies to partner with, how much insurance to buy, help them procure it, and then manage it along the way. And if there's claims, help advise them and go find that coverage and work with different folks in the spheres of influence to get that coverage that they should have. But I am 16 years in the industry, so some basics I can give would be, when I'm looking about insuring a building, the location, what's its construction type, safety measures that are in place, the building itself. What are we building? What's its intended occupancy? What kind of building systems are going to be in it, from fire controls to the HVAC system? Where's the power coming from? What does the electrical system look like? And then when you gather all of that up together, then what can go wrong? So you think about location. Is it next to a river? Are we on a fault line? Is it in a dense city, or is it urban or a big urban landfill? Are we out in the middle of rural nowhere and there's just nothing but open space? Construction type. We're here talking about mass timber today. That's something that is something as underwriters going to pay close attention to, versus things like concrete or steel. Safety measures. What's the record like for this type of building, and what has happened in others, and so on and so forth. So calculating that probable maximum loss for various scenarios that could hit that building, and then they come up with rates and fit that based on their actuarial studies and analysis.
Yeah, so I'd imagine a lot goes into it. And mass timber being the new kid on the block, how does the insurance market in general view mass timber projects?
Yeah, it's considered a high hazard class right now. Many insurers are hesitant to commit capacity, so basically commit their capital that they have and insuring these buildings until they see years of favorable data. Right now, there's data and there's testing, but the argument from insurers that there's not enough real life, real world buildings functioning for long enough periods of time for them to feel they know or understand the long-term impacts of using this material in bigger buildings. The insurance market itself right now too is also in flux. So that has to be considered in all of this. And so it's not a good time for, it hasn't been a good time these last few years with everything going on for support for something that's relatively new in terms of a technology or model. And anything new is met with caution and restraint until more can be understood. The other thing that's going on with mass timber and how insurers are viewing it is that it's combustible. So there's not currently an insurance classification that better captures mass timber. And right now it gets lumped into the combustible category with traditional light stick frame. And there is a huge difference with combustibility and fire resistance. We're not arguing that mass timber is not combustible. It's combustible, but it's also inherently fire resistant. And that the combustibility though, that is what's challenging. And like I said, there's not a classification system that can separate this engineered wood product from other combustible products. So it gets lumped in, rates get driven up, coverage becomes more restricted, fewer insurers in the world willing to support it. Then you got to add in things right now. What else is on insurers' minds? Concern over things like supply chain health, delamination, water events that can happen, and then the repairability of the mass timber if there was a fire or water event. Those are all the things insurers and underwriters are considering and causing them pause. So it's a challenge right now to go put the right insurance or what we believe is the deserved insurance for this risk, not the same as light frame. It's not concrete and steel either, but it is different. And right now, trying to separate that from the light frame is a challenge for the insurance community. But there are insurers out there looking to support it. There's a few that are fighting the good fight, along with some brokers like me who are trying to help change paradigms and get capacity developed for better rates and bigger mass timber projects. So there's some progress.
Yeah, well, I mean, if we're going to get to zero carbon by 2050, or if that's the target, there's going to be innovation in structural materials in general. Mass timber is a new kid in the block, and hopefully there's more materials as well that go into that mix. So is sustainability part of some insurers' targets, and how do we improve the situation with insurers and help them along the way?
Yeah, that's a good question, Adam. The sustainability part is a part of it, for sure. Not with everybody, but for some ESG-driven investors and big major companies wanting to be part of that carbon capture and those goals are coming in big time with investment into it. So as you see all of that happening, we have kind of what feels like a little chicken and egg, is more mass timber being built with favorable loss experience going to lead to eventually more capacity and better rates? Or can insurers help spur mass timber construction and development by lowering rates and increasing capacity now? Because it's not just that it's the right thing to do for sustainability. That's definitely a part of it, and that's going to be a pull for some. I think from the other side, at least where we try to continue to argue, is yes, that's the really good low-hanging fruit part, but also it's a different risk than light frame, and you're getting crushed right now with fires and water events on light frame construction. So why not look at this other material that has a different elements to it? Like I said, fire resistance, water, all labor, the schedule, all these other things that can benefit other risks that are happening out there and support it in a different way than we are today.
So I'm going to put my builder developer hat on. I've got a project. Let's say, being hypothetical here. How do I best navigate this insurance industry, and how do I best position myself in our building in order to work with the insurers and get the best result possible?
Information and a lot of it, engage early in the process. So the design team, the manufacturer supplier of the mass timber, and the general contractor, the builder that you're all hiring early on in the process, there needs to be cohesiveness with them to deliver a successful project, and bring insurance into that mix too. The insurers that you're going to need the support from for some of the developments that are being considered out there. You want to bring them in early, because the later you start the conversation, the harder it's going to be. Bring them in from the earliest concepts that you can. You might not be able to get pricing right away, but at least you can budget properly for worst case scenario. And then if pricing gets better as design gets developed and more, you get closer and closer to construction, perhaps you have some money to put back into the budget, but at worst you have enough in there from the get-go. So engaging early with your insurance partners when you're in that early design phase and still picking the team that you're gonna pick. Then insurers are gonna want to see experience, and whether you have it or not, building with mass timber. If you haven't had any experience before, okay, what's your plan for delivering a successful job, and how are you gonna address your inexperience in certain areas? Because every time you do something new, it's still the first time you're doing it. And with that, history shows that comes a higher level of claims. So insurers are going to want to know, first, they're looking for experience. If you don't have it, tell us about your plan around all these areas that that are new to you. Next, I mentioned the manufacturer and supplier, so key for the insurers. Who are they? Why'd you pick them? Where are they? Can they meet the production goals you have? And do they have the certifications that we want to see based on the codes? Also, how's that material going to be protected as it's being fabricated and then shipped and stored and delivered to the site? How are you going to avoid tanning from the sun or water pooling, other things that can impact the aesthetics of the mass timber, but would eventually be something that an owner or developer could look at the insurance policy for coverage if it doesn't look the way they want it to when installed. So insurers want to know, okay, how are we going to protect against that? And then the construction, is there anything unusual with it? Any new systems, any new approaches being taken because it's mass timber? And what does that look like? And how does that de-risk or elevate the risk of the job? Lastly, the magic two, water and fire, always comes back to these two with insurance. Water, probably the number one type of insurance claim out there, because that thing can get in and out of everything. So there's a lot of concern over water and what's that going to do to the adhesives if it's just left there pooling, and what does it do to the aesthetic value? So again, things there might be answers for right now, but underwriters are going to want to know, how are you protecting the material all the way from point A to point B to installation from severe water damage? What does that look like? And if there is water damage, how do you repair it, and what kind of damage can the water do? Having those open conversations and education with your insurance partners, extremely important. Lastly, the fire piece I mentioned, what protective measures are you doing? There's a lot built into the code now for fire suppression and fire resistance and other things, fire protection on these projects, on mass timber projects. However, there's going to be an expectation of redundancy from insurance companies. The code and other things may already, like I said, have it built in that there's solid fire protection, but you may be asked to go above and beyond. So be ready to do that in order to get that insurance support, the fire community support, working with strong fire engineering folks that can advise you and help you design these things and communicate with the respective agencies and insurers about how this job is going to be protected and is different than light frame. I went through a lot there, and that is all stuff that insurance companies should be underwriting on every job, but it's way more detailed when it comes to a mass timber job because of the still relative newness of it from the insurance company side.
Well, there's a lot of practical advice there for the individual projects level. What is needed to advance the acceptance of mass timber more generally in the whole industry for insurers, and how can things be improved?
More mass timber being built. Let's keep that going up. There's a lot happening, and a lot of folks out there fighting the good fight, from the structural engineering community and others in the architecture and design community, the builders, education. Just keep at it. I mentioned the word redundant. It's been like that and will be like that. Their conversations are going to have to happen over and over and over again. And we're going to need more mass timber with successful project deliveries and low claims included with that education, in order for a comfort level and acceptance level to increase. There's a long way to go, but it's underway. I think it's only a matter of time. Testing results continue to be favorable. My understanding is there's a recent fire testing result last week that showed a 3-ply CLT exterior wall panel with a combustible weather-resistant barrier now passed the NFPA 285 fire test. So that shows that flames will not propagate up the side of a building. It's huge, because if they propagate more than 10 feet, failure of the test. It's just another test from a highly trusted agency, the NFPA, by insurers, to show that this is a different material than light frame and should be treated and rated differently. But more of that needs to continue to happen. It's gonna be a long way, but in just the last 2 years, through efforts from folks like myself and others in the community, have already seen a couple of insurance companies come out, some with press releases, some more under the radar, but increasing the amount of capacity they'll deliver for mass timber projects and changing the rate structure from the light frame to something not quite where we'd like it eventually to get to, but it's starting to move on from some. So really good positive signs coming out of these efforts. So more of the efforts of education, keep building more. And when you build it, please don't screw it up. Do a good job.
That's it. Well, I can almost guarantee there's going to be those three that is just going to happen: more mass timber buildings, more research, more fire testing, and more understanding going forward. So all I can imagine is that, if there is a cost premiums, that they might be going in one direction as this certainty increases going forward. If people want to find out more about yourself, Jake, and learn more about what we've been speaking about, where should they go?
I'd say LinkedIn, best place to find me. Jake Concannon. I'm in California in the United States, so I talk with a funny American accent, I think. But you find me on there. That's the best place, easiest place to find me.